What's up, T?
What's up, D?
Hey, man, welcome back. Another episode of Movies with the Homies. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Thank you guys for watching. This is episode number 9, and yeah, we got a full slate of topics today. T, we both went out and saw Morbius, and we had our out of the theater little review that we just kind of said, okay, here's what our initial thoughts were. And then I came back behind that and I gave my personal review, and you guys can check that out up above. But now I want to hear, after, everything settles, sometimes after the movie settles, you've watched it, you had a chance to marinate on it and think and be like, okay, this was this was good, this was bad, I really like this, I didn't like that. Now we're going to get an opportunity to hear from you on the same thing. Just the movie in and of itself, Morbius, your kind of second or maybe kind of settled reaction. Like, how did you feel about the movie?
After further review, my opinion really hasn't swayed. I wasn't expecting too much going into the movie. I think the movie is what it is. It's a separate story. It's a separate storytelling of, a story. It was okay. I was okay with that stuff because my expectations, like you said, my expectations were so low with it that I wasn't expecting to be wild or odd. To quote DMX, when you least expect it, that's just what it was.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it was garbage. I'm not gonna say it was great. Like I said, after it's an okay movie. It's an okay movie. They've done worse.
That's true. There have been a lot worse movies made, even this year. And like I said, it wasn't the worst movie that I saw this year. I'm gonna bring this little article up here because it kind of addresses a couple of things. So it says here, the Morbius box office feels the bite of terrible reviews and a C+ cinema score. So if folks don't know, like a C+ cinema score is a bad score, like a really bad score. It's not like, oh, it's about an average. No. Like, even okay movies that you would say like, it's an okay movie, that gets like a B+. Like, for this movie to get a C+, that means that people really walked out of the theater and said this was trash. Now, you saw our out of the theater reaction, and you can kind of see, based on the box office, look where this thing is at right now. So it says, first weekend of April was a dud. There was reason to hope that it would launch a comeback month with multiple breakouts, but Morbius failed to live up to expectations with the must-see North Carolina Duke basketball game competing for attention Saturday night. The other thing I said, WrestleMania, right?
You called that. Called that early.
Yeah, WrestleMania really hurt that. And of course, the North Carolina Duke game hurt it. It says here it's the third entry in the Sony Pictures, universe of movie characters. I don't know what they're trying to do here, some kind of a joke. But Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and then Morbius. Those were the 3 films that are kind of in this universe so far. We know next year we're going to get Kraven the Hunter. And right now, I think that Sony has to do some head scratching, has to do some soul searching, because this thing isn't lining up the way that they thought it would. This thing is really coming out of the box, especially with a secondary character. Like, when Marvel built their universe, they really hit it on all cylinders. Remember that? Like, you had Iron Man right out the gate, you had Incredible Hulk, then you got Iron Man 2, then you got Thor, Captain America, and then you got an Avengers film. And they really hit all the right notes. All of those movies were at least good. I think maybe Iron Man 2 is the worst of them. And even Iron Man 2 is watchable. It was all right. It's about as good.
The worst of them?
Iron Man 2 out of those 6 films? Are you talking Hulk?
You better say Iron Man 3 was the worst out of all.
I said, listen, I'm talking about phase 1 right now. I'm talking about phase 1. I'm talking about when they got to their event film, right? You had your event film waiting at the end of phase 1.
Oh, you're right.
Okay, the Avengers, right? So out of the gate, those 5 films set up number 6. And right now, you got Venom, which is all right. It's an all right movie. Let There Be Carnage. I mean, that one... That one's tough. Like, I personally didn't like that one, but I know a lot of people do. But then you get this one, and Morbius, I'm like, okay, this is a secondary character. Like, what do you do with this guy, right? How do you get this guy transitioned into a movie universe? A lot of people don't know him. A lot of people don't really care about him, and they didn't get him off to a very good start. So, I think right now, go ahead, T.
Well, I'm normally tough on things,
Mm-hmm.
super duper tough and pessimistic. But in this one, dude, I'm okay with what they're trying to do. I appreciate the differentness of because it gave me so much in Spider-Man, the last Spider-Man movie.
Right.
So this is okay, man. I don't expect them to be continued. Like nobody can get it, be consistent just all the way through, man. I saw a great interview with Randy Johnson. Remember him? He was a 6'10" pitcher, right? He was talking to Rich Eisen, man. He was like, "Hey, look, man, I would throw a good game, man, and think I could come out the next game and throw a good game too." And it kind of messes with your stride, man. You have to get into a rhythm, right? And I just think that we're so used to Marvel being in a rhythm that, hey, lately, let's just be honest, they haven't been in a rhythm, right? So it's just a different pace. Yes, this movie felt like it was a 90s movie, early 2000s, pre-Marvel MCU thing, right? It wasn't akin to like a Ghost Rider. Do you know we had 2 Ghost Rider movies, and they're like, this is like that.
Yeah.
It was just a movie, dude. It was an underwhelming. It was weird. It was placed where a movie of its sorts should be placed.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying, D?
I think I do.
Right. So it was just placed wrong.
So I think with this film and other Sony, I guess you could call them it's called the Sony Spider-Verse or something like that. Like that's what they're calling this thing. I think they have to really start thinking very carefully about what they do going forward. So that's going to lead us immediately to our next topic. All right. So here's the next topic, and this is actually coming from a viewer. Okay. This guy right here named Steve Oriana, right? And he asked us,
for the comments, man.
Hey, thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. Thanks for watching and supporting. And here was your question. If it's up to you, where do we go from here? So when you're talking about the Sony universe, and I'm gonna go ahead and pop up the little icon there for Sony Pictures. I don't know where you go from here. I honestly don't. I think that they have not started out in a good spot. And I think there's a lot of different ways they can go with this, but I don't know, like, what's their next move? Obviously, they're going to be bringing in Craven, but I think right now Sony has to be saying, okay, everybody gather around, everybody get in the boardroom, get around the big table, and let's talk about this movie that we just dropped. Are we doing the right things by this thing? So we got to get into this. T, what do you think Sony needs to do next? Like, what is their next move? You're in the boardroom right now. You're at Sony Pictures. You're sitting at the big table with all of the big wigs, the executives who are obviously the ones making decisions. Like, what's the first thing you need to tell them to make sure that this thing is on the right track?
First thing I do is I pull a move that I'm always telling you about. I go hard with the villains. I go hard with the villains, really, really hard, because I know who the hero is. The buildup is the hero is Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. But I've got 22 years of Spider-Man in between that. I want the villains. I want to be head up by Norman Osborn. The villains. I want to see what they said they were going to do. I want to see Madam Web. I want to see the Beyonder. I want to see all of the things that are super cool, man. I even want to see, what would be really cool just to play with this thing? I want to see somebody in Stan Lee concept saying, hey, man, I'm drawing in this universe and I'm drawing you, right? Or Steve Ditko there. Hey, we're coming up with this idea, man. It already had legs, and then you spread. Sell the story, D. I want story. I want to see them go in where they're saying, hey, man, this is over here. This is happening, and all these things are collectively happening on different continents or different cities or different parts of New York to get to this one guy. There's only one guy that can get to it, and he's got to figure it out. I mean, one thing I think that's not being played up is how smart Peter Parker is. He's a freaking genius, man.
Yeah, you know what I mean? He is.
You need to play that up. Don't do any of these things like making the lizard be some 8-foot tall lizard. Like, make him be like, don't make him like Godzilla. Make him be a man that is like lizard-like. And like that's more interesting to me.
Right.
Do things that are more seamless and not this thing where I'm like, man, what is happening here, man? Why this just doesn't make any sense? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stop trying to humanize villains. They're villains for a reason. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
I agree,
take
man. Like, I think there's a lot that they could do with the villains. Obviously, like, again, we're going to get to this too. And thanks again, Steve, for that comment. They were already talking about a Sinister Six movie and how Morbius sets up the future of Sony Spider-Man Universe. So, like, it's obvious that the villains are the focal point, right? Because you only really got one hero. You got to kind of, got a couple of anti-heroes, kind of, towing a line between villainy and heroism. But most of this is about Spider-Man, and so if you got a Spider-Man and he's the main hero, then everything around him is probably going to be a villain or some form of an anti-hero. So that's what we were supposed to be getting with Morbius, right? Morbius is supposedly an anti-hero. I don't really look at Morbius as an anti-hero. I look at him as a villain. That's what he's pretty much been for the most of his comic runs, and every time you see him, there's some kind of like, he's a vampire, he's kind of messed up his life, but for the most part, this guy's a villain, right? That's what he's always been. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to talk about this one question, which it says, one question Sony will need to address at some point, however, is why Morbius would agree to be a part of this little cabal, the Sinister Six, right? Vulture and Kraven are long-standing Sinister Six members in the comics dating back to the very first incarnation of the team, but Morbius is generally portrayed as an ally to Spider-Man. Even in the movie, Leto's character is painted in a relatively heroic light right up until his meeting with Toomes. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I've never seen this guy, like, it says here, yeah, he's been portrayed as an ally of Spider-Man, but I've never seen him as much more than just kind of like the secondary character. It's like, okay, where do we go with Morbius? Like, how do you get Morbius to get plugged in to, a Sinister Six kind of concept? You still got, Mysterio possibly that you can bring back. You have who's the other one? You got the Vulture, obviously. You got Shocker. We saw him in Homecoming. You have you have you have Electro as well, but you got Scorpion as well. So you got a couple of villains that you can kind of plug into this Sinister Six. What do you see as far as the lineup is concerned? Who should they put in this thing?
I like Adrian Toomes. I like Doc. Obviously, Doc Ock.
Doc Ock.
I
Yeah.
would love to see. I would like to see Electro, just like they kind of did in the last No Way Home. Like that was like that
Mm-hmm.
was a great lineup. They were just missing a few other characters. Like they were
Right.
just, um, obviously you want to see what's his name? They're gonna make the movie about him, man. Craven the Hunter. I would
Craven.
love to see
Sure.
him. I would love to see him be there. I would love to see Red Skull in that dude. Cause I grew up on the cartoon in the '90s, man. Super great. That was one of the only Spider-Mans they had that actually looked like a man, Spider-Man. He was buff. He was a big dude. He would swing on webs, man. He'd be like, dude, I'm not screwing around with that dude. He was strong. And
Yeah.
he was solving everything, man. And he was just such a thoughtful hero. You know what I mean?
Right.
Kind of
Right.
reminds you of somebody else who's a thoughtful super. I mean, it's just I would like to see. I don't really know. To be honest with you, you got me stumped there.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
really don't know anything beyond who I've already seen. He's
Right.
got so many great characters because he's got like Sony bought like what all of his villains.
Yeah.
Like he's
Pretty
got
much.
every
Yeah.
last one of his
They
villains,
own it
man.
all, man. They own everything.
They own everything, so they can
Yeah.
play with this thing, man, and they can just make them. I would love them to just put them on a different planet and just see them war. I want to see them warring, man, where
On a
they
different
all.
planet?
I want to see them on a different planet. There's an episode, great episode, man, of Spider-Man '90
Mm-hmm.
series, man, dude, where he has to go on another planet and save people, and like he has to work with people he doesn't even know, man, to defeat
Yeah.
this problem that like, and it's just such a great episode, man. It's like a series, dude.
Uh-huh.
He's such a unique character, man.
Yeah.
Because he's probably the most humanistic superhero you're going to get
He's
all of more.
Yeah, he connects with people a lot. I think that's why what makes him popular is that, everybody can kind of relate to Spider-Man. He's a kid that, is trying to live double lives, and he's trying to do this, but also trying to be a hero. He's trying to go to college. He's trying to just have a girlfriend, have a family, but he's also trying to be a superhero. People can kind of relate to, getting pulled in two different directions, I think. I think that Sony, in just my opinion, I think that, if I was the guy sitting at the table and I'm like, look, let's clear the decks right now. Okay, you got Craven coming up. It's already in production. We can't do anything with that. Here's what we need to do. Okay, we need to start thinking about who is our lineup and how we're going to introduce these particular characters into the universe. That's step number one. Okay, so get your lineup together. If you're bringing back Mysterio, you kind of got him already in place. Okay, cool, we can bring Mysterio back. I'm not necessarily saying but he's a great villain. But then I'm not necessarily saying they have to, but they got to figure out who. If you're gonna bring Mysterio back, bring him back. Okay, we already got him introduced. Who's next? Okay, so maybe that's like, okay, we got 4 members right there. Okay, we got Vulture, we got Morbius, we got Craven, and then you got Mysterio. Are you gonna bring back Doc Ock? All right, and if you do, are you getting Alfred Molina to play him? Right. So you don't get Alfred Molina, you get a different guy to play Doc Ock.
The great thing about No Way Home, they introduced different universes, so you can get a whole new version. It's so like this thing with Marvel's grand idea, what they're playing with is it's a broad stroke thing, man. And it's a thing of genius because they can bring in their MCU characters into the Sony universe and take them out, and it's just such a good. It's trying to get to a level playing field. You could bring in a Fantastic Four. You know what I mean? You could bring in a lot of characters. You're like, man, what is going on here? You know what I mean? And you don't even have to explain at this point, you don't need to explain their origins.
I don't know about that, T. I think you always know how to do a good origin story to bring fans. A lot of people ain't going to know anything about some of the characters that they're going to bring in.
That's what the comic books are for. That's why that's what the comic book genre needs. That they need you to do research, not homework, but research to say, hey, you know what, man, let me check that out. They've got the springboard for that with social media and all these other things. You can get me interested in it, man. I knew nothing about the Peacemaker, man, but you know what, dang, let me read up on this dude. Oh, this is not the version of him. Oh, Vigilante, man, this dude is great, man. Give me more. In the world of content today,
that would be the smart way to go about it, right? You use the movies and the television shows to kind of rebuild your comic universe and get everybody excited about that. I said that with DC Universe when they had that streaming service, I thought that was genius because it's like we got all of these great shows on there, and now we're just going to connect that right to the comic universe. Unfortunately, they pulled the plug on it and just said, hey, we're just going to do comics. We're going to push everything over to HBO Max.
DC Universe, man, you were one of the biggest proponents, man, and you know what? You got me into it because the fact that you can read up on those comic books right there, that was awesome, dude.
That's smart, right? It's smart, but it doesn't seem like anybody's trying to do that. So it's like, hey, I guess it didn't work. DC tried it. Maybe it didn't work. I think it worked. I thought it was a really smart idea. And I thought if they did everything that they could have did, we're kind of getting off the subject a little bit, but if they did everything they could have did to really promote that universe, that streaming service, I think they would be doing much better in the comics. That's just my opinion.
I'm going to tell you how it ties in. It ties in because I know we're going to move on to the next subject, but let me just end with this. Stan Lee, back in the early 2000s, he saw the vision of the internet. He said, man, I'm going to put these webisodes on. You know, he did that early back in the day, man. He was a genius about that, man.
Stan Lee has been a genius for it. He was a genius, man. He understood the way how to sell obviously characters, but then also how to sell concepts. And so the internet was a big deal, to say, hey, we're just going to launch these little, like you said, the webisodes, and just really tie people in, connect to people that we can't reach with just the comics, because some people just like, hey, I'm not reading comics, but I'm online and I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh wow, what's this? This is awesome.
He was first to do it. So I'm just saying, DC, not that they're copycats, but Stan Lee was first that I know of to do that.
All right, folks, what do you think about the Sony universe? We kind of got off topic with that, but what do you think about the Sony universe? Are they building this thing out right? We got Kraven the Hunter coming up next. After that, we don't know. You know, is this thing going in the direction that you like with Venom, with Morbius, with Craven coming up on deck? Jump down in the comments. Let us know what you think. All right, T, we're going to move on to the next topic. All right, so next up, we're going to talk about a little TV show that dropped this week on Disney Plus. First episode for Moon Knight. There's old Oscar Isaac staring at himself in the mirror. He's got a couple of identities he's struggling with. And yeah, this was the first episode, the goldfish problem. And T, what happened, man? You don't want to discuss it, man. He don't want to talk about Moon Knight. Look, Moon Knight was I think this was a shaky episode for me. I know a lot of people are loving this episode. Everybody's saying good things about this. This was an extremely shaky episode for a lot of reasons. I thought that the storytelling pieces of it were fine. I thought the story was good. I thought Oscar Isaac's acting was good. But, you know, one thing you did is you just took too long to get to the good stuff, you know. And that's one of the big problems that you can have. If you take too long to get to the good stuff, for a guy like me that's very busy, got a lot to do, I'm like, you know what? I don't know where this series is going. I'm not hooked in already. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to binge this thing, okay? I'm just going to go ahead and wait till it's all the way done, dropped and over, and then I'm just going to binge watch it. That's what I'm going to do. And for the most part, I think T agrees with me, but I don't know. Like, to me, this doesn't feel like must-see TV yet, you know, and that's what we need when you're talking about a show like Moon Knight. It has to be must-see TV. Oh man, I'm appointment, you know, I'm setting my watch by this thing, you know. Oh, next episode's coming out. When is it coming out? Like, it took me like almost an entire day to watch it, and then when I finally did watch it, I was just kind of like, I could skip this, you know. I could have skipped this. I could have been doing something else with my 50 minutes, whatever it is. So T, are you listening? You got
I'm
it.
listening. You're right. Look, this thing is a map. You know what I mean? It's a map. And what they did was they shred up the map into 6 pieces and said, "Here you go." But you can't look. It's not this. I need to see the whole thing, man. Don't give me half the pizza. I want to see the whole pizza. That's not cool, man. Like, look, this thing is obviously you have to binge watch it, man. You're gonna have to do some research and go in and in over. It just was very slow and just, I'm thinking, is this meant to confuse me? Why would they sell confusion? It just seemed awful confusing, man. But I know it's going to make better sense as it leads up. Like, bam, bam, bam. They could have at least released the first 2 episodes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would have been a much better sell for me. It's interesting, but it's hard to follow. It's just hard to follow. And no, you're right. I wouldn't say necessarily, like, I understood everything that was going on. I was following along with the story. My problem was it just wasn't very interesting. Like, and I could tell interesting stuff is coming down the line. I thought the story, like, that they were establishing, let me clarify. I thought the story they were establishing was interesting, but they just haven't gotten to the juicy parts yet. It's like, okay, we're still kind of holding off on all of the stuff. Like, they didn't even show Moon Knight, like him in his full costume and everything like that until the last 5 minutes of the episode. 5 minutes. Are you trying to
I'm being generous. All right, it was probably like the last minute. But you know what I'm saying? Like, we really didn't get
last minute.
yeah, last minute. I mean,
I don't know. I can't. Seconds.
I don't know if I needed, like, you know, I saw the little jackal dog, whatever, chasing them and everything like that. Maybe I'm getting that all confused. But at the end of the day, they did not show us enough Moon Knight for us to really get excited and sink our teeth into it.
I'm not going to let you do it. I'm not going to let you do it. This thing was Paranormal Activity the Disney way. You got a mystery character that ain't never showing up in a stupid episode with a stupid voice talking to him, or a stupid character at this point that I don't know anything about. I'm not going to be nice. You know better than that, Disney. I pay $7 a month for your thing. Give me more than that. Damn near $8. That was crap, D. I don't know why you're on that. It was terrible, dude.
No, I can't say. No, again, I'm not going to say the story, T. I'm talking just about the story that they laid out to us. It looks interesting. Okay, you got
crazy.
The story was interesting. You had gods. Again, I understand your frustration. You had these gods. You got these Egyptian gods. You got a lot going on, dude. You got a lot going on, and they're going to take their time to dissect it. But my problem is you got to reel me in at the very beginning, okay? This is the inciting incident. You're supposed to be pulling people in and saying, hey, come on in, check it out, get some popcorn, hang out and relax. This is going to be a great show. They're not giving that to me yet, okay? They have not given that to me yet.
Hold on, D. Hold on. I gotta go on Amazon, and apparently I gotta give myself a heart because I don't think this is good. All right?
I'm not good. I'm not disagreeing in terms of what happened to audio's tripping. I'm not disagreeing with you 100% on the fact that this thing doesn't work right. Okay, this thing isn't working very good. Okay, I'm not disagreeing with you on that. Like I said, right now to me this is a bingeable show. This is a show where I can say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to binge watch this thing. Any last comments, T? No? All right, folks. Let me know what you think about this. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next topic. All right, sorry about that, folks. We had a little audio trouble with that, but I think we got it clarified. All right, T, let's move on to the next topic. All right, so this one is one for you. You asked to discuss this one, and it's about our friends over there at DC. And this is going to be about super villains. Now, you wanted to discuss this because you're a villain fan. I'm a villain fan too. I love the villains in comic book stories, and generally any kind of story. The villain really is what makes a story great. You have your hero. The hero is the hero, but a good villain will always bring out the best in that hero, and that makes that hero rise to levels that hero didn't realize that they could go to. And that's why you always need a very good villain. You always need a villain that tests the hero in multiple different types of ways. And so you wanted to talk about villains in the DC world. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of briefly skim through this article. It's talking about the best DC supervillains of all time, and you might be surprised who is number one. It's probably not what people are thinking, but let's just go ahead and skim through that. All right, so number 10, they had down the Anti-Monitor, not a villain in the traditional sense, which is true. Again, just talks about a force of destruction. All right, we got number 9, Captain Cold, which is a Flash villain. Yeah, number 9. This is Games Radar, so this is their list, not my list. This is their list. Captain Cold at number 9. Number 8, Deathstroke. I would have had Deathstroke up a couple of notches, but nevertheless, great villain, amazing villain, messing with the Teen Titans and all of that. Batman also is one of the great villains there. Number 7, Reverse Flash. People love Reverse Flash. I have never been a big Reverse Flash fan. I know that he has that the storylines that he does with the Flash, and those are good, but just as a general villain, he's okay. Number 6, Brainiac, one of my favorites of all time. Brainiac, one of the great Superman villains, really presses Superman to the test. I want to see a Brainiac in a movie one of these days. I don't understand what DC is dragging their feet on for that, but whatever. Number 5, Ra's al Ghul. Obviously, we know this guy as a Batman villain. I probably would have had him up a little bit higher than this as well. Number 4, Sinestro, Green Lantern villain, clearly one of the better villains, in history. Number 3, Darkseid. Yeah, number three, Darkseid. You surprised, T? You would have had him higher? Man, maybe. All right, number 2, the Joker. A lot of people would have put Joker at number 1. But you know who's number 1, T? Our guy, Lex Luthor. Yeah. And this is the thing about it, man. It says, right here, it breaks it down. Whether he's filling the role of a ruthless politician and corrupt businessman, or infuriatingly untouchable mad scientist, or an out-and-out mega-powered menace, Luthor owns a confidence and an intellect rivaled by none. His greatest strength is also his greatest weakness, his absolute and utter selfishness. I mean, Luthor is just an amazing villain. Go ahead. All right, T, go ahead, man. What were you saying about the villains?
So I was saying with the villains, man, I'm really surprised that they didn't have Vandal Savage on here, man. They're not making it in the top 10. I love the number 1. I'm okay with the number 1 through 3 is just phenomenal. I think Vandal Savage should have been at like number 4, and Ra's al Ghul was okay at 5, but definitely Vandal Savage is in the top 5. I mean, even I mean, you got some incredible villains there.
Yeah.
I mean, Batman should have way more villains on this list. His villain list alone, but those DC villains that are good, you could have had Atomic Skull, you could have had Parasite, you could have had Amazo
I was
in there.
about
You
to
could
say
have had
Amazo,
like
yeah.
devastating villains. I definitely agree with number 1, level 13 intellect, dude. I mean, this dude is phenomenal, dude. One of the best villains of all times, dude. You really could have had a tie for 1 and 2. I'm great with 1 and 2. I am great with. You should have the granddaddies of them all be up the top. You know what I mean? Joker and Lex is amazing, dude. Brainiac, I would have had a little higher.
I would have had Brainiac higher too. Yeah, but it's hard to say because
Brainiac is a definite thing, dude. Brainiac, they're just such good characters, man. I just, man, Lex though, man. I'm so happy with this list, man. As long as Lex is, you need to put some respect on his name, man.
Yeah, the guy's ruthless, man. He's ruthless, and they haven't portrayed him well in films at all. To me, they have never done him well, especially Jesse Eisenberg. I was like, come on, man, really? Like, this guy's a good actor, don't get me wrong, but he's not Lex Luthor.
Kevin Spacey, buddy. Kevin Spacey.
You know, he was okay. He was good. Okay, you're right. I stand corrected. He was good as Lex Luthor, but I want to see like kind of a younger Lex Luthor too. I want to see somebody that's kind of close to Superman's age. You know what I'm saying?
Do that?
Yes, we did. I just did that, man. I want to see a Superman that kind of grew up at the same time as Lex Luthor, like, you know, something similar to Smallville. I want to see that. What?
Strong would have been a great Lex.
Mark Strong would have been a great Lex Luthor, absolutely. So, out of your list, you said you would have put Vandal Savage in there. So out of this top 10, I know you probably would have dropped the Anti-Monitor or maybe Sinestro. I'm not sure. Who would you have cut up out of this thing? You know, let's see. We got Captain Cold.
Captain Cold, get out of here.
Yeah, Captain Cold.
Those two don't even get out of here. I would have put Mirror Master on there before him.
Ooh.
Mirror Master is slept on. You know what? I would have put Killer Frost on there before that.
I don't think so.
Killer
Man.
Frost is. I would have put anybody else besides that. You could have put. What's his name? What's his name? Wade. Not Wade. Wade Wilson. The other dude. Deadshot. You know what I mean?
Really? Deadshot? As one of the top 10 of all time?
I mean, not all time. You're right. Look, I just don't. Look, of all time, dude. Of all time. That list doesn't have Mongol. You know what I mean?
Mongol. Oh my God. Yeah, you're right, man. Mongol is a great villain, man.
Dude.
Yeah. Nah, I agree with you on that, man. I probably would have threw in Vandal Savage and Mongol for sure. Yeah, now that you reminded me, I forgot all about him.
But you know what, D? This only speaks to how great DC's villains are.
Yeah.
That we're just like boom, 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 off the top. Like, this is a hard list to put together. This is no easy list.
Yeah.
This is what I mean about them being such an interesting comic book company, man. Detective Comics, dude.
Yeah.
They have villains that are just, man, interesting, dude.
Yeah.
And they're not. It's not forced into their humanity. The humanity part is not forced into it. Like Clayface is one of the most interesting Batman villains there is. Yep. Who could be anything. He's basically DC's shapeshifter.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
He's a knockoff version of freaking Martian Manhunter. You know what I mean? Like, this dude is just, and with homegrown abilities. You know what I'm saying? Like I disagree with some of the people on this list, obviously, but I'm okay. I like the fact
because there's so many villains. It's like you can, you know, everybody's opinion is like equally valid because there's so many great villains. Like I said, you just rattled off a couple that I wasn't even thinking about at this point, and I was
Gorilla Grodd. What's his name?
Gorilla Grodd. I love Gorilla Grodd as well. You know, I'm like, man, I've been like, you've been rattling them off, and I'm like coming up blank. But oh shoot, what's
the Humanite? What's his name? The Humanite is a superhuman.
No. I'm not thinking about here. Oh, Metallo. I was thinking of Metallo. It's a great villain. You know, it's like those villains. you know, they're so diverse and interesting. They don't all just keep doing the same thing. Bizarro Superman is great. I love Bizarro Superman. Go ahead.
Day is not on this list.
Doomsday is not on this list.
Doomsday is
Well, I
not
mean,
on.
you know, the people they only probably read.
Doomsday.
They probably only saw Brainiac and Lex Luthor as legit Superman villains, but yeah, Doomsday is an amazing villain. I mean, there's
Doomsday is not on this list. Doomsday.
no, he's not on the list. No, he said Brainiac, right? Nope, nowhere on here. Yeah, I mean, he could be honorable mention or something, but no, they didn't even throw him in that. The guy that killed Superman, the guy that killed Superman ain't on the list. Right. But yeah, I love this. You know, I love DC again for his villains, just for the fact that DC knows how to weave a story and make villains interesting, not just because they're strong and powerful, but like, you know, again, a guy like Brainiac. Like, Brainiac doesn't have to beat Superman with strength. He has his intelligence, and he challenges Superman at that level. So now, as Superman, Superman's like, well, I can't just punch my way out of this situation. I'm going to have to actually think my way through this whole situation. That's going to require, you know, a different type of storytelling, you know, and that's what you want from your comic book stories and your heroes and just stories in general. You just don't want them just to be like, hey, this is a strong guy. This is, you know, he's going to just punch his way like the Hulk, you know, like the Hulk, you know, you can see him like, yeah, he just kind of punches around and everything like that. But it ends up becoming one note. Okay, how strong is he? Is he stronger than this guy? Is he stronger than that guy? Can he get madder to become stronger? And that's how he's going to beat him? Boring. You know, like, give me a story that has some intricacy to it, some nuance. That's what's great about DC villains. Go ahead, T.
No, that's you summed it up, man. I ain't got nothing else to say.
All right, perfect. All right, folks, what are your top 10 DC villains? You know, who do you actually think? Is this the perfect list, or do you guys have something else to add? Go ahead, jump down in the comments. Let me know what you think on that. Okay, next up, we got another topic, T. Now this one I thought was going to be a dud for me, or kind of a slow topic for me, because I haven't watched Young Justice since about season 2. You know, like the first 2 seasons of Young Justice I loved, and then by the time we got to season 3, I kind of watched the first episodes and I'm like, you know what, I checked out. I'm not really interested. You know, Young Justice really isn't the same kind of cartoon that it was when I first watched it. So yeah, T, you go ahead and discuss this Young Justice season 4. How you feeling about this thing, man? Nothing, huh?
It's
Go ahead, man. Be honest.
It's hard because this show is on HBO Max, as opposed to DC Universe, and it was kind of going the direction it was.
Yeah.
In DC, on DC Universe, but they're pigeonholing things into this second half of the 4th season.
Yeah.
That I don't think a kid. Now there are no parental advisories on. There's
I'm not. Your voice is going in and out. Hey, your voice was going in and out. Say that again.
There are some things. This was on DC Universe at one point, and obviously DC Universe closed down, and now it's on HBO Max. It doesn't have it. You know, there's no parental guidance on this thing. So I would, as a father, which I am, I would be uncomfortable letting my kids see that alone without trying to explain. And I don't think it's a conversation when you on kids that are impressionable to have see what's going on this cartoon. That is, I mean, unless I overlook like the parental rating thing, saying, hey, watch out. I don't like the direction the show at this point. You're trying to, you've got an agenda that you're pushing. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair at all. I think those are conversations that don't need to be had at this point. But nonetheless, they're doing. It's really sad because I put you up on Young Justice, D. And Young Justice delivered season 1 and 2.
Season 1 and 2 are great. Yeah.
Season 3 and 4, man, I don't know what this is.
I checked out. Yeah, I checked out. I was like, all right, well, this show is done for me because I don't really like the direction they're heading in. So I'm just gonna go ahead and move on to other stuff. Yeah, Young Justice to me it kind of is trying to, like you just said, talk to a certain audience. It's talking to certain people, certain individuals. Now, again, I don't care. Like, honestly, if that's what you want to do with your show and you want to change it into something that it's not, like initially it was like, hey, we were talking about superhero stuff. We were talking about, and there were relationship issues and things like that going on. But for the most part, it's like, hey, man, this is just like another superhero cartoon. You got great little intricate storylines about superheroes doing superhero things, got supervillains doing bad things, superheroes trying to stop the supervillains. Great. That's all it needed to be. It changed into this little relation. Oh, we got to start talking about all of these crazy relationships, and now we're getting into like stuff that for me personally, it's just like I'm not coming from our comic book stories to talk about this. I mean,
if it was just for us right now at this point, I would say okay, fine. But it's not.
It's not even for that. It's not even that, man. It's like, yeah, it's and here's the thing, like, like the stuff that I've heard about the last couple of seasons, and again, it's starting to talk about sexuality, getting into that topic, okay, we're going to talk about the LGBT community, whatever, but my problem is with any of these types of shows, you start talking about the social issues, and that's what the show is about. It's about social issues. Okay, it's like a superhero show, but it's not a superhero show. It's really about social issues because that's what they're putting their focus on, and you can tell. Instead of putting your focus on the actual like the characters, not their lives necessarily, but the characters dealing with this existential threat to their lives or to the planet or whatever the situation is, that's where the focus needs to be. And instead they're putting the focus on, well, it's about somebody's their mother or their relationship with this other person, and it's losing it. Go ahead.
Hold on, D, because you make a good point here. And the missing piece that you haven't seen in this is there's more of that stuff going on than actual weapons and guns.
Well, yeah, that's my point. Yeah, that's my point. That's my point. The focus is not on telling a good story about heroes versus villains. The focal point is, hey, we're going to tell a story about this person's, whatever, personal life, how they're getting along with their lovers, how they're getting along with, this, maybe there's a threesome or something going on. Like goofy stuff like that. It's like, okay, this is why I checked out. Like you told me about that, and I was like, see, this is why I checked out. I stopped watching the show. Not that I don't like I still have fond memories of the first 2 seasons, and I still sometimes go back and watch the first 2 seasons. But by the time I get to season 3, I'm like, it's really not for me. And maybe it's for somebody, and maybe their ratings are still doing great. I don't know, but it's just not for me.
Right, and TV is not supposed to raise your child.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. TV is not supposed to raise your child, but what TV is live story, right? Some people don't have imagination, right? So they had to see it visually. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just think that the direction that is it a story, a love story, but some things that doesn't need to be on a kid's cartoon. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the other thing. Yeah, like we talked about, what was it, Disney Plus? Disney Plus, remember a couple of weeks back, they announced that they were going to start allowing rated MA, TV MA content on their channel. And, we had discussed that, like, well, parents, like you just said, hey, that's your job, lock it out, handle that stuff. Disney's provided you with the tools for that. So when it comes to that stuff, hey, look, maybe I don't approve of it. Maybe you don't approve of it. But at the end of the day, it's really not up to me. If it's a kid, my son wanted to watch it, I'd be like, hey, when my kids are all older now, if my son was younger, if I had like a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, and it's like, hey, mom, I want to check out, or hey, dad, I want to check out the latest episode of Young Justice, and I'm hearing like, oh, they got this and that going on. Okay, hey, son, before we watch this or whatever, let's talk about what you're about to watch, and let's have a conversation about it. That's what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to talk to your kids, you're supposed to know what they're watching, talk to them. You can't just tell DC not to make it. Just like we just can't tell Disney, hey, Disney, you can't have it on your platform, because we're family friendly.
It's a bit different though, D. This is a bit different, and I'll end my thoughts on this.
Mm-hmm.
It's unnecessary. I can appreciate what you're trying to do. You're trying to have equity amongst things, but equity will take care of itself.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point of the heroes.
No,
Some
I
of these things are
100%.
like,
Yeah.
what? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
But
and I don't disagree with that point either. I think I think my point is that if you want to have this on your platform, that's fine. That's up to you. The audience and the market will determine if this is going to last or not. So if you start noticing your ratings are starting to fall into the toilet, oh, I wonder what we did differently than what we did in season 1 and 2. Because season 1 and 2, we had people banging on the door asking for season 3, and we, now we starting to see that fever and fire kind of dwindle a little bit. Maybe people aren't looking forward to season 5 next time because it's like, this really isn't for me anymore. That's how I look at it. The market will determine what these companies decide to make, and if everybody's loving it, then they'll just keep giving them more. But my thing is, just parent to parent, that's how you're supposed to handle it. Hey, kids, come here. I can't tell you I don't know everything that's out there to watch on television. I mean, they got shows on Netflix I would never, ever, ever let my kids watch. Yeah, and I would be questioning them if they watched it at any age. There was that one movie that, everybody knew that, pretty much, I think there's like lawsuits going on right now because of a movie that dropped on Netflix. Cuties, I think, if you're not familiar with that, there's lawsuits out there going on right now. I'd never would let my kids watch that at any age, but at the same time, I can't say, hey, Netflix, you shouldn't have this on. That's up to Netflix on what they want to do. And if people, you just let the market decide. Oh, you know what? Netflix has this on, off. I'm not having Netflix no more. I won't have it no more. So that's kind of the, a roundabout way of getting to the point of people got to do what they got to do. And, everybody has to be good stewards of their families and everything and their money. Make sure you're putting your things to the right things that, benefit you and your family. But yeah, last topic, T. All right. Anything else?
no, I'll just say that it's an interesting season. I think they kind of crossed the line a couple times.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because I'm a fan of the superhero genre in DC, I'm trying my best. But as a parent,
Yeah.
my kids are grown too. But I just,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
no, I hear you, man. It's disappointing in a lot of ways. All right, folks. Well, let us know what you think on this topic. Let's move on, T. This is gonna be the last topic, and yeah, it's kind of on that same kind of serious note. We normally don't do serious stuff, but we had a couple that we did this time, and this one's about Will Smith. Yeah, I know this one's tough. Um, I have made a couple of videos talking about this situation. Haven't heard your comments, and I know the people out there would love to hear what you got to say, T. So let's go ahead. Oops, hold up. There we go. So let's go ahead and talk about what we have going on here. It says film starring Will Smith reportedly on hold after the Oscar slap. So it says here Netflix and Sony have reportedly put movies Will Smith was set to appear in on hold after the actor slapped comedian Chris Rock during the Oscars. So here's a couple of movies that they pushed pause on. Fast and Loose, it was going to be a Netflix film, okay? They pushed pause on that. There was Bad Boys 4. I discussed that on one of my random rants. Yeah, they pushed pause on that one. And there's also a show that's called Emancipation. It was a drama about a runaway slave who joins the Union Army. It has a 2022 release date, but they said it remains in post-production. So they haven't had any comments on these particular topics. But now I ask you, T, what do you think is going to happen with Will Smith's career at this point? I mean, he's having these things happen to him. We've seen other stars like Johnny Depp, lose roles. No longer Jack Sparrow. He lost Grindelwald in the Harry Potter's franchise. So he's lost roles because of his outside, indiscretions or whatever happened. And then you also had, of course, Ezra Miller. He just got in trouble a little bit ago with the law. We see actors, getting in trouble. People on Twitter are trying to cancel them, get them out of there. What do you think's going to happen with Will?
I don't think anything should happen with Will. Ezra Miller, you ain't heard nothing about them. They've acted they've acted quicker on Will Smith than they have Ezra Miller, and Ezra Miller has repeatedly acted up.
Yeah.
It's just the hypocrisy of Hollywood, the hypocrisy of our society. Man, I you know what? Hey, Man, I hope that Will Smith's hand is recovering, and I hope that Chris Rock's face is recovering. I hope he got a cold pack, man, and he stayed up there. Look, these are professional men who had a discussion, a dispute over differences. Hey, I do not think it's okay to disrespect a man's wife. I do not think that's okay in front of millions of people. I don't think it's never an appropriate time for a joke on that, and it's not an appropriate time to walk up on stage and hit somebody, slug somebody. You handle that behind the scenes, and hey, sir, hey, listen, you know, I'm not gonna ever have this conversation with you again because I need to know that you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth.
Right. Right.
You understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? That's what
Right.
I got to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Other than that, this is a non-issue, man. Because you know what? If anything, it helped. It may have hurt Will Smith, but it helped the Oscars. It helped the Oscars, and it's gonna help.
I don't know if
Wait,
the Oscars.
hold on.
Okay, all right.
You know what you think. Let me tell you what I think.
Okay.
I think it's gonna help Jada Pinkett Smith get roles. I think it is. I think it's going to raise awareness for her condition that she has. There are plenty of men in Hollywood that have been losing their hair for years. Plenty of people who
Mm-hmm.
lose their hair. It's going to raise awareness to it. Hey, that slap was not adult like. We're talking about people in their 50s slapping each
Yeah.
other. That is
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah,
That's
no,
stupid.
no, no, 100% on that one, 100% on that one. Yeah, I think that the main issue that I have with this whole thing is, and it's something that we discussed earlier, is that we're talking about Will Smith, we're talking about Chris Rock, and where are the social commentary, like hey, where's Black Lives Matter saying, hey, let's jump in here and let's talk about two black men, working. Yeah, hey, where are these guys at right now? Because that's my kind of, hey, this is something where you got one black man hitting another black man, but they always kind of avoid the black on black issues. They kind of no, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about all these other people that's going on, but this is like one of the biggest problems in the community, and I feel like, hey, this would have been an appropriate time for them to say, hey, we got a comment to make and let's start talking. But of course we knew they was never going to do it because it doesn't fit what their agenda is going to be, and that's unfortunate. But I think in regards to Will Smith, I think he's going to recover from this. I just don't know when. Is it going to be, they're going to give him a year off and say, hey, you know what, Will, take a year off, no projects this year for the rest of the year, we'll see you in 2023 and we'll talk then. Maybe that's what they're going to do. I don't know, but I feel like Will, he has more in him. He has great roles in him. He just won an Oscar. He's been overdue, in my opinion, for one for a very long time. I also think that if I'm Chris Rock, and I'm gonna say this piece. If I'm Chris Rock, I am going to make sure that I bank on this heavily. Every single show that I do from now on, and I'm going to capitalize on this. But hey, Netflix, you need another comedian? Dave Chappelle may or may not be working out. Hey, let me jump in there. Let me drop a couple of specials. I absolutely would be jumping all over this if I was Chris Rock, because you don't get these kind of events that happen to you every once in a while where this thing is just completely, viral. Everybody saw it. Everybody's been talking about it for a week now. I would be jumping all over this if I was Chris Rock, and I'm like, hey man, but at the same time, it's like I don't want to rub Will's face in it, but he kind of rubbed my face a little bit the wrong way. So hey, why not? Let's go on in. Let's see what it is. What do you think, man?
I think it's hard not to take something personal when you're talking about somebody's personal life and it's affecting them, right?
Yeah.
He had a room full of pedophiles. He had a room full of people who do all kinds of crazy stuff
All kinds of
that
stuff. Oh
picked
yeah.
on, but he chose to do his own people. He would have never said that about Lee. He would have never said that about anybody else, but instead he chose those
Well,
people.
was it the joke? Or is it because he said GI Jane? Like, what if he said, made a Dora Milaje joke? Would that be better?
So I don't think that's the case. I think that Chris Rock is a clown. I used to be a big fan of his,
Mm-hmm.
but when he pulled out those girls a couple years ago, when that Oscar thing where he was made fun of the something, and you sitting in a room full of millionaires and they only raised like $150,000 for the Compton
Mm.
Girl Scouts, and he paraded them out like there was some joke, like they just starve and feed the kill children. He just told me he's just a big old sellout. I don't like him, man.
I don't remember that situation. That was last year. You said. I don't remember that situation. You said that was last year.
He had the Girl Scouts of Compton. These little black girls that he rolled out there, man. They raised less than $50,000. A room full of millionaires only raised like less than $50,000.
Wow.
Like, come on, man. Like, he just did them like a big old joke, man. And that's what we are. Like, we're a joke to people, man. And like this did not bode well personally.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm gonna end my thoughts with this.
Okay.
Why? It's always a problem when a man, let alone black man, says, hey, you know what? I'm going to stand up for something. I'm macho. It's always a problem with macho. But it's fine. It's fine as long as I'm, you know, like that. But let me stand up for something and say, hey, listen, hey, this is against what I believe as a man, as a husband.
Right.
And then, you know, everybody's vilifying this man for making a decision and sticking with it. You know what I mean? He stuck with his decision. Can't be macho. No. Everybody can be.
I don't
Rocky
think he.
Rocky.
Yeah.
Hold on, D. Rocky get to be Rocky. Arnold Schwarzenegger get to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Everybody else get to be a man. But with the minute the man goes up and says, "Hey, he did some 16th century slap you. I challenge you to a duel." Right? Charlie Murphy. That's it.
I understand where you're coming from with that. I really do. All right, folks. That was T's comments on it. What do you think about the whole Will Smith, Chris Rock situation? Do you think this thing should finally die down? You know, jump down in the comments section. Let us know what you think. All right, that'll do it this week. I appreciate you coming on, T, giving us your thoughts on everything that's going on in the world of movies and entertainment. Definitely always great to have you on, folks. I want to thank you for watching, giving us your time, and appreciate your support. Go ahead, jump down, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you next time.